We're about a minute in, so I'm going to take the opportunity at least to start the webinar now and welcome our three guest speakers. We've got three incredibly special ladies. Not only are they experts in their field, but they're also three of our community of practice facilitators. So it's a joy to have people I normally work with very closely as experts along for our webinar today. Today we've got Charity Jukumbi. Charity is the Acting Director for DFS and Policy at FSD Zambia. We've got Anne Mohangi, who's the MD of Wholesome Consulting. And we've also got Ophelia Oni, the Strategy and Business Development Advisor for Inclusive Banking for Fidelity Bank in Ghana. So as you can imagine from those job titles you've heard, we've got three very intelligent, very experienced ladies going to be sharing their thoughts and views for you today. So I'm going to stop talking because we want to hear from them and not me. So I'm going to hand over to our first speaker, who's Anne, that's going to set the scene and tell us a little bit more about some of the challenges and issues that we face due to financial education and literacy issues. So over to you, Anne.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Today I'm privileged to talk about this subject that I'm very passionate about. And the subject concerns financial education, bridging the literacy gap and empowering financial inclusion. My focus is going to be so much into definitions, because most times people think financial inclusion is all about, I have no clue what loans work like, that is okay. So it's about knowledge, it's about skills, it's about confidence to manage finances very well. And we want to go and define a few things. Knowledge means having an understanding of personal financial issues. Do you have an understanding? Do you understand what it means to get a loan? What does it mean for you? And we also break it up into skills, because you may have all the knowledge about financial education, but apparently you do not have the skills. The skills means that, are you able to apply the knowledge to manage your personal finances? And then lastly, which is the greatest, and I think we should pay attention to this one, is the attitude, or probably some people want to call it confidence. It just means that feeling significantly self-assured that you can make prompt, efficient decisions as your finances grow, or if you're in a financial crisis, what can you do about them? Going forward, bridging the literacy gap and empowering to financial inclusion just means two things: to equip people with knowledge, to inform them about what is going on, and it's very important, who are they? Are they the poor? Are they in the urban? How much do they earn? People need to understand what information do I need? Is it fit for me or not? And as we go forward, the biggest thing that I do, because I also do life coaching, is about behavioral change. So what when you get the skills? So what when you get the knowledge? So what when you get the attitude? It all boils down to one thing, and that is influence. And when you're able to influence these three things, then we're able to have people change their behavior and be able to change how their finances stand and their status. The gist of the matter for the topic is, one, the essential product need, because sometimes they even do not need all the products. You need to know, in my status, my age, where I am today, what products do I need? The second thing that we need to know is, does the person understand basic financial concepts? I do get taken aback whenever I visit financial providers, or probably call them banks if you want. And there is this poor man, and they're telling him about all these times, especially in Uganda, or probably even in Africa, we did not have translators. And this young man who went to Harvard is in the bank telling the old man from a village about compound interest, investment return, risk, and diversification, and they have no clue what they're talking about. So can we be able to teach these people, even in their own languages, about the financial concepts? The other one is about discussing money and financial issues. In Africa, we have a big taboo about money. People don't want to talk about money.
It looks like we might have lost Anne for a second with some internet challenges. Just bear with us and hopefully Anne will be able to rejoin us. Anne, I'm not sure if you can hear us. We've kind of lost internet connectivity with you. We're not hearing you clearly. Are you still there with us? Okay. It's a shame. We seem to have some internet connectivity issues with Anne. Let's just give me a minute and see if I can reach her. And if not, we'll swap to one of the other presenters who can present in Anne's behalf. Just bear with me a moment while I try to reach Anne. Okay, maybe Anne.
I am back.
Ah, fantastic.
I'm so sorry. Okay. I'm so sorry. I have connectivity issues here, but let's go back to where I can. Let's go back to where we were.
Excellent.
Okay, great. So we're talking about things that we need to understand and make good financial choices is where we were. I think the choices are the most important because
So the internet in Uganda is not playing ball with us today by the sound of things. We've lost Anne again. Let's try and connect back with Anne and see if we can reach her.
How do I get myself to make these payments? How do I transfer money from my mobile cell to a bank account? So we need to teach people these things, and those are the most important things. And of course, the desired outcome is someone who is probably thinking, I am stressed about financial issues. I do not have access to anything. What do I do? And the desired behavior is that, wow, I am happy. I am here. I understand the surroundings about my surroundings regarding financial education. I do understand myself very well, and I'm in a good place. So if we look at, if we go back to look at the current behavior and the desired behavior, as financial inclusion practitioners or teachers or coaches, we want to change. If it's about personal financial management, the person should move away from living hand to mouth to be able to making a budget and a plan and be able to manage their finances well. Regarding savings, can they be able to have a savings plan with clear goals and not just have put money together for just nothing, or even probably no savings at all? As you understand, Africa has a very low savings rate. And of course, Uganda is just above 5%, which is very sad. That is the savings rate to GDP. Kenya is doing very well. I think it's about 25. I'm not so sure. My statistics may not be as good. And Rwanda is doing definitely much better than Uganda. So we need to find ways of increasing our savings to GDP. And that is the way we can get these countries to grow faster. We're continuing on current behavior to desired behavior. Loan management, people borrow for emergencies, people borrow for school fees, people borrow for furniture, people borrow for weddings in Africa. From that place to how do you maintain an emergency fund? Can you start building an emergency fund? And on investment, we need to get people from just choosing, not knowing what to do, but choosing the right investment. What age how old I am, and what do I need to invest in? What are the other options that I have that are on the market? Regarding insurance, the insurance, of course, the spread of insurance is very, very low in Uganda and in Africa. And there is limited knowledge on insurance services available. And also it goes back to a bit of culture, because people are thinking, you're telling me I'm going to die and I need to insure myself. It's also another taboo. So people are shunning insurance. But as people get out to modernity, and as we are seeing the younger ones taking over the industry, we have a bit of a spread, but it's still very limited. So we want people to understand that when you insure yourself, then you can meet your financial goals. Of course, retirement is a big thing. We want people to go away from no retirement plan to developing a plan and be able to retire when they're getting older. And then finally, on financial services providers, there is so limited knowledge on financial services, especially with the digital finance. How do I make payments? What is this thing called paperless transactions? People still want to sign. People still want to see paper. So it is a big challenge, but we need, I think the future right now is actually digital financial education, the technology that is involved, among other things. And the big one, where actually people now have gotten knowledge, but when you get the knowledge, they have to be accompanied by the skills and attitudes, like I told you. And in past benefits of a spending plan, to make a spending plan, to be disciplined about it. People to know the purpose of savings, people to make a savings plan, people to have a belief in why I should save. The loan management issue has been a big one, because most people, especially those that are not savvy with the financial service of every kind, but we want the service providers to be able to educate people about the rates, the terms, the fees, the penalties. But the most important, does the person have the confidence to ask the questions that they need to ask? What does it mean if I take a loan for 2 years or 10 years? If I take a mortgage, how will that affect me? The blueprint, the little words, can someone be advised to read them before they sign anything? And of course, on investment, there are different forms of investment. There are questions to consider when making an investment decision. There's caution in making investment decisions. And this we've seen into play because there's Bitcoin, OneCoin, and whatever coins that are there. Some are legit, some are not. But people just get excited and think, okay, this is a get rich quick scheme. I can be able to get in there. We have pyramids all over the place, pyramid schemes. We need to be able to talk to people and teach them about the right investments at the end of the day. On insurance, it still goes back. Do I have the confidence to choose the right product? We have so many products that are coming, and people are literally throwing them in people's faces. But what product is right for you? And then, of course, on old age, the factors that affect old age planning. How do I make a plan? What is the discipline about me saving for my old age? And then lastly, it goes back to the financial service providers. Do they follow procedures for using bank products? Do they have the confidence to walk into a bank? And I don't want anyone here to think this is not real, but there are people who work in a bank and they have to remove their shoes because the bank is so sophisticated. and they're worthy of getting into this bank. But we need to build the confidence of everyone saying that if you're a customer, you can walk into a bank and do whatever it is that you want to do. So as we equip people, and that is the empowering that we're talking about, the closing of the gap, we need people to understand their options. What are the options that are available? Open a savings account. If I do not want to, probably I don't have enough saving, where else can I go? What does it mean to go to a bank and pay my fees there vis-a-vis me paying the fees using my mobile options out there? The one that I'm very, very passionate about are the rights and responsibilities of both our people. People need to know their rights, that there's something I deserve so I can ask for it, and no one else should stop me. And then, of course, the responsibility that if I get something, I should comply. I should be able to deal with or to agree with the terms. It's an obligation. If it's a loan, I need to be able to pay it promptly, among other things. As we continue on rights, people need to be treated with respect. Sometimes you walk into a financial service provider and there are people that are treated in a different manner because of how they're dressed. But we're telling people that, look here, you need to be treated with respect. You need to choose and you need to decide. The decision is always yours and not anyone else's. You need to be listened to. Responsibilities that you need to evaluate the offer, to treat others with respect, much as your customer, to provide the right information. The biggest issue in Uganda is that we do not have addresses on our homes. So someone takes a loan and the next day they shift. The next time you're looking for them, you can't find them. That is a very big challenge that we have in Uganda. And hence, there's a lot of information that you need to give. And some people lie about that information. So what we are doing to encourage people is to equip them with confidence to ask and ask and ask some more. Because then when they do that, they're equipped with information, they get knowledge, they're able to go out and make a decision that fits their financial status. The big one that we have in Uganda that is still going on, and I think we need to start getting more, we need to spread it out faster, is making payments. It's a special case. There are very few, even myself, there are things that I still don't understand about making payments, especially with the new technology that is around. So with, the rolling out right now is to teach people, what is it that, how do you transfer money from a mobile phone to a bank account? When I receive money, what are the charges? And if the charges are high, can I be able to go to a bank or do it personally? What are the other options that I have? That is a special case. And I think we need to start in Africa, probably in Uganda, we need to start rolling out as fast as possible because there are many things that are being churned out right now. And the people do not know how to use all these products that are out there. Yes, and we should be able to teach our people on how to use them and not be taken advantage of. I would like to thank you very much. Mine was to talk about the general financial education and what it is that we need to empower people. And I'd like to hand over to our facilitator, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you for setting the scene and reminding us, about what it is, what is important, what skills and knowledge and attitudes and behavior that we need. Just reminding participants, if you do have questions, please use the Q&A function, which you'll find at the bottom menu of the screen. And then we'll also come back and ask questions at the end to all three of our expert panelists. So now we're going to head over from Uganda down to Zambia and hear from Charity, who's going to tell us a little bit more about a program that her and the FSD team have been working on in the eastern region there, and some of the successes, challenges, and issues that they've learned. Over to you, Charity.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and a warm welcome to everyone on board. So at Zambian Financial Sector Deepening Zambia, well, we run a pilot to do financial education to a group of people that we understand don't use English. They use a local language called Nyanja. And so the case for the Eastern Province was to address the financial literacy gaps. We developed a radio program for it. dramatized kind of sensitization to capture the interest to the people listening so that they would be able to identify with the things they go through every day. And so the radio program is based in a community setting with the things that besiege them every day and how they respond. Sometimes the responses are not so good, so that's why the education is there and trying to lure them to a better response. So we find that they have certain gaps. In villages, people don't know about financial goals. They don't understand the financial education concept. And so they lose focus and consistency in the way they will address things, the solutions to their problems, their financial problems. So there are different kinds of people who are involved in farming, smallholder farmers. They are some marketeers. They're found in different ways of life. So the drama is based into their everyday life, and it teaches them the well-learned concepts that my colleague Anne has just outlaid concerning loan, saving, and all those nice concepts on financial education. So the nature of the drama will be as follows. It will start with a panel. There will be a panel most likely from the mobile network operator, from regulator, from any other fintech. They will pick out a concept, say saving, and then there will be a drama to talk about saving, about a husband and wife and why they need to save, what happens when they don't save, how they approach emergencies. So they'll play out a script like that. Afterwards, people will phone in and ask and contribute and identify with the drama. Well, the drama is scheduled to start in September airing. It should be 13 episodes. FSD has partnered with MNOs, the telecom regulator, and banks to beef up the panel, and topics will be like we heard. So we want people to listen and pick out the concept and then ask, because these are things which they interact. We have chosen the Eastern Province because there's one local Zambian language used there. So we want to connect with the people in their own setting, and language is one barrier for financial education. So we've done it in the local language. We have done pre-recording and pre-testing in the area already. We've made focus groups in the area, and we put the drama on a recorder and play it out in focus groups. Then people listen in and give us feedback as we develop the drama to make sure that it's appropriate. And I'll raise a few concepts of financial education and tell you what their responses were, just for you to understand and maybe structure your financial education accordingly. So the first challenge was the access to credit. The challenges they have in rural communities. They find that the credit is offered by Shylocks. They have local terms for it, and it's very expensive. Otherwise, people will usually borrow from family and friends. They also have savings groups where they borrow from, and these are more trusted. They are formed around family and friends and trustworthy partnerships. Access to digital credit is a new thing. So there's digital credit on MTN platform. People can slowly increase their amounts that they access depending on their patterns they form. And we see that, like in Uganda, the reasons for accessing credit has been to invest, start up a business, to pay school fees, or to respond to an emergency. Borrowing is costly, and it attracts large amounts of interest. And like my colleague earlier said, there are issues that need to be clarified. Then we look at the aspect of saving. Saving in Eastern Province, the most popular way of saving is through savings groups. People still save under mattresses in their homes or in the field in a can they put out there. And women are the ones who are more inclined to saving in this manner. Men still have some sort of bank account or an e-wallet, but the women don't usually have these facilities. So the financial education we're doing is digitized financial inclusion. We were able to operate, and we get a buy-in when the women hear about an e-wallet, the fact that you don't pay any charges, the fact that the money can lie there and it won't diminish like in a bank account. The response is very amicable. They would like to join such. They would like to have an e-wallet, and we would then educate them how to access one, how to open one. And the reasons they give, they need money sometimes for lobola. So they're real people with real needs. In the play, there's a part where they play out, and there's a fire at a market where a gentleman owns a store and things are consumed in the fire. So there we saw that insurance is absent in the village. And when we raised the matter of insurance, in some towns they knew about funeral policies, and they also knew about crop insurance. They didn't know anything about health insurance. And they added that access to insurance was only found in the 3 bigger towns of the province, unlike 5 smaller ones. And in Zambia, there's no mobile based insurance. So people can't access insurance on the phone. And once we broke it down to them that these types of insurance, they were very willing to access insurance on the phone. But the complication is that no provider in Zambia is offering that. Airtel had been doing that 3-5 years ago. For whatever reason, they called it off. So people want insurance, but the access point. So that goes to show us that sometimes the demand side are ready to take on new products, but the supply side is slow. So when we're talking about financial gaps and financial education, who should be the one receiving the education? Is it demand-based only, or should the supply side also be checked up with new products? That's food for thought. And in the Eastern Province, then we saw that people definitely needed mobile insurance. They needed more crop insurance because they cultivate their lands and the crops fail, and nobody has floated crop insurance. We also saw that there should be more sensitization on the number of products that are available. When you have focus groups, the people want to access those products, but the only common products are those that can sell in urban areas, like DSTV, pay for your utilities, pay for what, and these things don't happen in the rural. So there's a kind of a rift between the two sides, demand side and supply side. So there are grievances against, when one has a grievance against an FSP, there isn't good customer care. One person said they had some good 700 kwacha on their wallet, which is like equivalent of 850 rands, and it just disappeared. They use such words because they don't understand what's happening. So you know that there's no proper direction for recourse. All they have is recourse to the service provider. If the service provider can't answer them, they don't know who the regulators are. So calling out to the people that are doing consumer protection on mobile money, digitized, they need to come out very clear on recourse, on call centers and things like that. These are not known to the end user in the rural area. There was also a very interesting matter on SIM cards. So SIM cards can circulate around families and friends. They don't understand that KYC should be stringent on SIM card because fraud and other things cannot be detected because the SIM cards are shared. So there's got to be some education on SIM cards. They didn't even understand PIN numbers. In the village, people don't remember the PIN. So there'll be one great boy who sits by the agent, knows everyone's PIN number in the village. When their payout for the maize harvest comes, everyone tells the PIN to the boy, who then keys in and pays out money. So literacy, not just financial, low levels of education can be very challenging in rural areas. People don't understand how that a PIN number is sacred and should not be shared. So these issues should be brought out. If we're going to reach the unbanked, more products need to be developed that speak to rural life in Zambia. In Zambia, what is popular is the both model. And the booth model does not well address the issue of liquidity, because a booth is solely dedicated to mobile money, and there's agents exclusivity. So the people that are teaching financial education need to bear this in mind. They need to remember KYC issues as related to SIM registration. And the identity, there's a national identity which is paper-based. People in the rural area need to be educated on the importance of that item regarding going to draw money from their agents. They get it and put it somewhere where they can't remember. So as we go sensitizing people on financial education, it must include identity. We also found a challenge with distance to access points. Zambia is sparsely populated, so some areas are not serviced and people have to go a long way. So I don't think financial inclusion will be achieved if people have to go a long way to access a service. So we can see that financial education and literacy go a long way in guiding individuals. People need to plan, people need to think about retirement, but the right products in the rural area and the right language and the right access points where the rural populace feel they are welcome and can access. These are the issues that we're dealing with in Zambia as we go around trying to work out on a radio program that answers to these. So we're working with both sides. I think that's enough, and I'd like to say thank you to the listeners, and then I'm available for questions.
Thank you so much, Charity. So many things to unpick there. I think it's really interesting, you know, the connection there. You talked a lot about the need, you know, for not just the education, but also the right products to be available, you know. So I think that's a really interesting link, and I'm going to come back and ask you some questions about that after we hear from our last speaker. So as well as educating clients, you know, on the products and on choices, we also, as you touched as well, Charity, need to talk to them, you know, about their rights, about their recourse. And that was in particular one of the focuses of the campaign run in Ghana. So over to you, Ophelia, to tell us more about that.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm going to share a few slides. Okay, so basically what I want to talk about is a program that we had in Ghana. It was a collaboration between the Financial Inclusion Forum Africa and ASEAN International Smart Campaign. I'll just give an overview of the radio campaign, the 4 client protection principles that we focused on, how we created awareness for the radio campaign. I'll talk about the formats of the radio show and also share some of the impacts that we've been able to make. So the radio campaign, actually, even though it lasted only 12 weeks, it took about a year to plan, and we kicked off in February 2019. The duration was for 12 weeks, and we targeted English speaking, and we picked the local language Twi, which is the most widely spoken local language in Ghana. Even though it's about financial inclusion, and we could have gone, you know, to the mass market, we decided to just use radio and also target the English speaking audience, because these were issues that concern both enlightened people and also people at the base of the pyramid. So we wanted a 2-pronged approach. We didn't want to just focus on the base of the pyramid, because issues of credit, transparency applies to everyone who wants to have a financial relationship with a financial institution. So we picked 2 radio stations, City FM, which is a top English station in Ghana. We had the morning slot, which was at 10 a.m. And then for the Twi audience, we settled on Adom FM, and we had the 5 p.m. slot for Adom FM. And each show ran for 15 minutes, but we also had social media coverage through bloggers, tweets, and Facebook. So the radio stations were also sharing information on their Facebook pages. We involved some bloggers and influencers, and we also had a social media consultant who was coordinating all of this. So ASEAN International Smart Campaign has about 7 client protection principles that they've settled on. But for this project, we focused on 4, which was transparency, fraud, responsible borrowing, and recourse. The reason why we chose transparency was to be able to educate clients on the need for providers to be transparent on pricing, terms, and conditions. Most of the time, we find out that these are very, very tiny prints that people don't focus on. But when there's an issue, they end up coming back to bite them. So we wanted to draw people's attention to paying attention to the fine details, the pricing, the terms and conditions when dealing with financial service providers. We also focused on fraud because at the time, there's also a lot of fraud around mobile money in the country. And we also had some Ponzi schemes running. And we felt like it would be a good topic for customers to tune in, to listen to, and to be able to educate themselves and protect themselves from falling victim to fraud and Ponzi schemes. They need to protect their PIN numbers. They need to deal with only trusted financial institutions and not just get carried away by all the promises that some of these financial service providers were promising. On responsible borrowing, we find out that a lot of people are not clear on the credit process. And so they just go in for loans, and then the bank staff or the financial institution staff are also trying to hit their targets. So they go ahead and say, hey, it's okay, it's going to be fine, without really paying attention to the person's ability to repay and their capacity to repay. And so also finding out the purpose for which the person is taking the loan. All those come into play to make sure that when you take a loan, you will be able to pay. But we also realize that people don't also know that Ghana has a credit referencing bureau. So sometimes they go in to borrow and they don't know that if they are not able to pay, their information will be sent to the credit reference bureau. So this was also focused on that to let people know what is out there. And if you still go ahead to take a loan and you're not able to pay, this is what will happen. We also wanted people to know that if they had complaints, if they felt they've been treated unfairly, they had the right to report the financial service provider. First to the financial service provider, and then they could even go to Bank of Ghana. A lot of people did not know that if they have any issue with any financial service provider, they can actually report the issue. If if the financial service provider is not able to resolve it for them, they can actually report the financial service provider to Bank of Ghana. So we just wanted to make sure that clients know that providers are to have in place timely and responsive mechanisms for complaints resolution. And if they didn't, what the next steps were. So every week we'd go out. We had 4 animated videos per topic, because we're talking about 4 topics. We had 4 animated videos to be shared on social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, just to remind people to tune in. And we also had 2 still creatives per episode to be shared also across WhatsApp, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., etc. And we also had radio jingles that actually announced the show to the radio listeners as well to tune in. So I just wanted to see if I could play this one. Oops. Computer is a little slow.
I think he's trying to load something.
Okay. I just wanted to. Oh no, it went ahead.
It's okay. Maxime has actually suggested in the chat that maybe we can share some links, so we can do that afterwards if it won't work, Ophelia.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if we can hear it. Can we hear it clearly?
Okay. All right, no problem.
Yeah.
I'll share the slide. So, and then, yeah, a link to be able to play.
Yeah, we'll
So
link. We'll link.
Right. Okay. So for the radio show itself, it was 12 episodes, as I said, over 12 weeks. We started with the T station because of scheduling conflicts. We started with the T station, and then the English station started 6 weeks later. But it was okay. Initially, we wanted them to run concurrently, but it didn't work out. So it's basically 15 minutes, 7 minutes for a radio drama, which was different from the jingle. So it was also like, you know, the whole setting is similar to what Charity talked about. So would have talk about maybe a client talking to a friend saying, hey, I just invested money here, you should join me. And then somebody calls and says, hey, have you heard our investment company has collapsed, they ran away, we can't find them. And, you know, the discussions around that, the mistakes they made and all that. In addition to that, we had an 8-minute expert interview after the airing of the 7-minute drama, live on radio, interacting with the host, answering some questions, giving more information about what has happened and what people can learn from it. And on the final week, on week 13, we had a quiz on the episodes that had been aired and some prizes were given out to the listeners. I was gonna play the radio, but we have a problem with the volume, so I'll just leave it. Oh. Okay, let me just. Can you hear? No.
No, I can't, but we can definitely send the link out to everybody afterwards, or we can even put it in the chat if you can do that once you finish your presentation as well.
All right, that's good. Okay, so I mean, everybody wants to know how it went, I'm sure. So what was the impact? Who were the listeners? Because we used a lot of bloggers, influencers, and the radio stations, we also had the Tree radio station, to be specific, which also had a lot of listeners. We were able to reach 2 million people. But 74% were actually male. So that was a bit of a surprise, but not too much of, I thought the gap was too wide, 74% male to female. We also used GeoPoll to measure the listenership to check how many people actually tuned in at the time of the radio show. And it looked like we averaged about 270,000 listeners on the English station and about 168,000 listeners on the local language station. So that's it. On the way forward, we want to, ASEAN has actually given us permission to go ahead to redistribute the productions in any way that we want. So that's what we're doing. This time we want to take it down to the rural areas, rural communities, focus groups, associations, and then use them there.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ophelia. That was really interesting. And quite a lot of people reached there. So that was a really, really good reach from that session. I have a question I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to start with one and then I'll come and look at the Q&A and see what questions are coming in from the listeners as well. But my question is, I guess to all of you, but in particular Ophelia and Charity. So both of you have in common that you chose kind of sort of dramas or real life situations followed by expert speakers in your campaigns. What was the psychology behind this? Why did you choose this methodology?
So I don't know who goes first. For me, we did a sample of trying to understand what people like. And we did a little research and we found that when we walked through the communities where we are now, people said that radio was very effective because of its digitized financial inclusion we're talking about. Actually, almost everyone has a phone which they move with. At the market stand, it's with them, in a shop, in the field, or whatever informal jobs they were doing, they would have a radio on themselves. So for that reason, it is this kind of media, because people are in informal work, so they're not you wouldn't catch them at a specific time, but with radio, no matter where they are, they listen in, they tune in to interesting things they want to listen to. And when there's a very nice radio drama, everybody, it's the talk of the town, it's the talk of the community, and they will be next to their radios on the phone and listen to that. So that was the appealing thing for us to go to the radio.
Thanks, Charity. And Ophelia? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay,
There we go.
All right, hi. So the reason why we chose the experts was we just wanted to really, drum down the message. Each drama was for 7 minutes. And honestly, some of it may sound a little fast or a little confusing for others, sometimes following through. So the whole idea of the expert was really to break it down and take the real message out of the drama, to let people know that this is what we are trying to drive at, because the drama is just presenting a scenario, where something happened, but what am I supposed to learn from it? What is in it? How does it apply to my daily life? So what the experts tried to do was to bring it home, to drum down the point, to sum it all up together so that we don't miss out the message that we're trying to send out.
So there's that combination of having, the drama to be the talk of the town, to make sure people tune in, to make sure people are listening, but also following that up to make sure that the seriousness and the message, has been portrayed. And I guess also some sort of sensitization to people from banks, from MNOs, hearing from people who run these, making them more human maybe as well, bringing them back to, giving people the confidence that they can approach these organizations as well. And we've got a question from Chris, and Chris is the founder of Masabi, who does a lot of financial literacy training. And his question is kind of similar to my second question. So his specific question, was what do you ladies think about where the priority and budget should be for financial literacy? And I guess this was my question in a similar way. Whose responsibility is financial education? Is it financial service providers alone? Is there some responsibility for people like, your central banks? And where does the budget come from or can come from? I'd love to hear maybe your thoughts and also what's going on in your countries. Okay. Who's going to start? Charity's starting.
I'll go first. In my country, financial education is for financial service providers, for the central bank, even for the Ministry of Finance, you'll be surprised, even for the telco regulator called ZICTA here in Zambia. So it's everyone, it's every stakeholder. The interesting thing is the way a DFS is arranged, because the telco is worried about issues of fraud on mobile money. And so they'll go out and sensitize people against fraud, issues of the PIN number, the SIM registration, and people should realize that now a handset is also access to a bank account. So the telco regulator has his interest. Then the central bank, being the regulator for finance, also goes out to protect the citizenry, and they'll give out tips on how to be financially included. Issues of transparency, ensure that every financial service provider displays their offering in terms of price, how long money will be delivered, and all these things. So it's for everyone. And interesting, in Zambia, the trust account fund earns interest. And so interest on mobile money trust fund has been earmarked for general sensitization in the industry. It has not yet been dispersed by the central bank, but it's a bone of contention. As advocates, we've been saying, let this money be released so that different kinds of wings can use it for sensitization. But we noticed that up to now, that money has not yet been given. So it should be for everyone. They're available funds. Everyone should factor it in their budget, because they owe it. Why all these services and the products are in existence is because we want to serve the end user, the customer. So if we have where we have customer centricity, then we should be able to ensure that the customer is well provided, is well protected, and every transaction is transparent. So even if you're a service provider, you should be able to allocate a budget, and then other people would do the same, and jointly we can get the job accomplished. We do have a week of financial literacy in the country where everyone, the bankers associations, the payment association, and everyone brings out something from their budget, including ourselves, and together we go out and do financial education. So it's a concern for everyone, just like financial inclusion.
Thanks, Charity. And Anne or Ophelia, Anne, maybe have you got some thoughts on that question? We're just going to unmute you, Anne, and see if we can hear you. Right, let's try again. Cool. Yeah, there we
go. Unfortunately, in Uganda, budgeting for financial literacy has always been at the bottom end. They first take care of everything else, and then communication and financial literacy just comes in as a by the way. I think Charity talked about the trusted fund, and the only way to get a proper budget is to get all private sector practitioners, especially, to come together and build a fund with a regulator, and then get probably into a committee, and then they'll be able to get this information out. Because the private players usually only educate surroundings where they're providing these services, and especially those services are in the urban areas. They cannot reach the rural areas. So the regulator has to come in to take care of places in the rural areas. So I think going forward, that should be it. In terms of budgeting, priority is never given to financial literacy. It comes in either as donor money, or it is very secondary. And we can't continue like this, especially if we want to see change.
Thanks, Anne. And Ophelia, any comments from your side?
Okay, on Chris's question, you know, I think it's a collective effort, and collaboration also helps, because with Fidelity Bank, we've collaborated with NGOs and groups and associations to do financial education and financial literacy. But most of the time, we just do regular advertising for our products and services for our regular customers. But when it comes to going down to the mass market base of the pyramid, usually we have to collaborate with someone to be able to reach all the people. We don't make it our priority to actually, or make it part of our budget. So most of the time what we see is a collaboration. You have an NGO or a donor partner coming in to collaborate with you to be able to reach the unbanked and underbanked.
And connected to that is we've got a question from Happy, who is asked about sustainability, of the programs. Do we need, continued education, continuous financial education, or is, especially for the bottom of the pyramid, how do we address to make sure that we are, reaching the young, the old, in a long-term way?
Yeah, we need continuous education. In Ghana, there's a lot of issues with trust. People just don't trust banks, and when they hear that a bank has collapsed or a financial service provider is no longer in operations, they go back to keeping money on them and in their bed, under their mattresses and stuff like that. So we always have to go back to tell them, hey, these are the things you have to look out for. Look out for a service provider that has a track record, has a history. A lot of people almost always exclude themselves. They feel like, I think Charity mentioned that, or was it Anne, that some people enter banks and they take off their slippers. They feel like those are not the places for them. And so we have to continue doing it so we know that everybody is okay with it now. But the way I see it for Ghana, we need to continue doing it, because every time I meet a new group of people, they have different fears. And they just want to stay away from anything that has to do with financial service provider.
And Charity or Anne, have you got anything to add to that?
Yes, I would say that it should be a continued exercise because products change. Technology is changing all the time, meaning that there will be new things all the time. So, and these are again for the benefits of the user. So they should be continuous sensitization to avail information for new products, and there are new frauds they keep changing. Fraudsters keep developing new ways of defrauding people. So people need to be warned constantly on the new things. We, you know, we the experts on mobile money have a WhatsApp page in Zambia with stakeholders representation, and we keep abreasting ourselves with what's happening in the market. So the user too needs to be appraised with what to look out for, what to be conscious about, and what are the new products, what are the new requirements. So life is dynamic. I think it should be a continuous thing.
And Anne, anything to add from your side?
No.
Great. So we've got another question coming up here from Marcella. Looking at sort of the difference between high-level sensitization. So she asked, there are high-level ATL marketing and awareness campaigns. There are BTL education that provides practical education and training on how to choose and use services. Where should the emphasis be put? In her experience, that many markets and central banks and service providers tend to focus only on high-level sensitization campaigns. What do you ladies think?
Can I go first?
Yes.
Go for it,
I do understand where the service providers come from, because the high level sensitization will bring in the market. They're trying to look for market, and they have this new product, and they have to target it and talk to them about it. And the other thing is that if you go further than that, the thing about financial inclusion is not so much about only access, but it's about having the purchasing power to be able to use the service available and to do, for example, if you open up a bank account right now and you stay in the village, you'll probably not use that bank account for the next 1 year or so, because if you're not earning, then you're not going to use it. However, that's why I'm thinking that the priority should be the private sector, yes, should go out for high level, but then they should put a certain percentage of funds that can be able to work with a regulator or government ministry to be able to reach that person who is the future customer, to empower that person, to teach them how to get purchasing power and be able to get these services. So for me, the priority is that the fund, can we create that fund that can be able to spread out to everyone else? Because then we need to widen the market. We need to have rural women included. We have right now, we are about 45 million in Uganda, but the active people that have access to financial products and services are about 5 million. The rest of the population is not included. And I think it's most important. The more inclusion we have, the more we'll build these developing countries, the more we'll empower people, the more economically empowered people, we will have more economically empowered people. Yeah. That's my take.
Thank you very much, Anne. Charity or Ophelia, do you have a different take or an idea or opinion?
No, I think it's fine, very adequate.
Ophelia, anything to add?
Yes. What I've come to realize is the ATLs really provide general information that's top of the line. I mean, above the line, sorry. And, you know, going face to face and meeting the people has more impact, if you ask me, because then you're able to convert more than if a person heard about the service on radio. I mean, someone who is traditionally excluded from banking services. And the reason I say that is we had a project where we dealt with some waste pickers. And we had a co-design workshop with them. When we found out what their problems were, we told them which products would serve their need. We told them we have agents that you can go to open an account, and they didn't do anything. You know, they refused to move. They didn't do anything. So we went back to them, and luckily we have the ability to open accounts in the field via mobile phone. So when we went back to them and we opened the accounts for them at the dump site, that's when they opened up. And then we linked them with an agent, and we said, this agent will come and pick your money every week, so you're comfortable enough to do it on your own. So they may hear a radio ad, oh, open an account, this account is free, all you need is an ID, is a low KYC account, etc. Nothing will move them to go do that unless you go to them and help them through that process to overcome their fears.
I think that's really interesting, Ophelia. You know, like we're expecting people to listen to maybe one or two radio ad campaigns and then instantly go and change their behavior, their attitudes, their, you know, and that doesn't happen overnight with many people. And that's why, you know, we need the constant education. We need to build that confidence. And I think confidence was something that very much came across in Anne's presentation. You know, first up, that it's not just about knowledge, it's about skills and attitude. And it's that attitude, that confidence to be able to walk in a bank or, you know, give your money to someone and trust that that's going to go to the right place. You know, it's very easy to say, you know, most people should have had some experience, but if we're talking about rural areas in particular, you know, then these things, this mobile money thing is strange and foreign, for example, and will take time for people to get used to it. And like high-level sensitization, you know, is very much what, you know, what needs to be done to a point, but we also need that one-on-one interaction. And I think that's where, you know, the role of agents, you know, and can have a really interesting impact as well. And we can see that there is a need for impact. We can see that when people not knowing the right choices, not feeling empowered, not knowing their rights, not even knowing what products are out there, and also not having access to those products, whether they exist or in the market or not, they're unaware of them or that FSPs don't provide them. We can see that there's still a way to go, and financial education literacy is going to play a very important part of that to increase, you know, to increase people's abilities and to reduce poverty as well, and impact on financial inclusion. Yeah, so I think this has been a really interesting webinar. I've really enjoyed, you know, Anne, thank you very much for scene setting for us and explaining, you know, the skills and knowledge and behaviors that we need to influence. And for Charity and Ophelia to bring us really nice case enjoy and